Council special meeting is back in session, and we'd like to welcome Mark Miller, our 1 o'clock interview. Mark, just a couple of house cleaning issues. Each council member is going to ask one question. We'll go around the table, and then we'll go around a second time for a second question from each council member. Then I will ask the last question and give you an opportunity to ask questions or make a closing statement at that time. So having said that, also we've asked the exact same question to every candidate. So just to let you know, we will be asking the same question to you that we've asked the previous candidates. So on behalf of the City Council, welcome, Mark. We all know you, so it's a little different than the past interviews. But please tell us about yourself, Mark, and then explain your reasons for wanting to be the next Troy City Manager.
Thank you. First, I'm going to say good afternoon to Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and the rest of Council. A little bit about myself. I've been married 31 years. I have 4 children. My oldest played hockey at University of North Dakota in Grand Forks and is an emergency room nurse and in PhD program to become a nurse practitioner. My oldest son and his family lives in Marquette, and he works in the corporate environmental field. My youngest daughter lives in Detroit, is experiencing the whole Midtown thing, and going to Wayne State. That's where I'm going to after this. And then my youngest son goes to Michigan State University and plays on the hockey team. And I would just do a quick note, because some of you might care. Last night they upset number 8 ranked Cornell University, which was kind of a big deal. So I have worked for the city 18 years. Obviously, you know, the past 6 months of acting city manager and city manager in a temporary role. And I've worked for the city for 18 years. And then the follow-up part of that question was about why do I want to be city manager? Okay. There are a few reasons, a number of them. First, I think I can do the job and do it well. Second, I have this professional and ethical obligation to bring us out of sort of a crisis situation and ensure that this is a very good working environment for the people that work here. We are professionals who want to serve the residents and city council, but also the employees are professionals and they have lives and they rely on these jobs. And I believe I can help serve council, the residents, and help this be a good place to work.
Great, thank you. Next, Mayor Pro Tem Abraham will ask the next question.
Thanks, Mayor. Mark, what do you consider as essential in the relationship between a city manager and city council? How would you facilitate a productive relationship?
What I think is essential is that there be fair and equal communication, and that be honest, respectful. And the second part of that question was about production or productive.
How would you facilitate a productive relationship?
I think where we have been now, my relationship with council, is that we would have to increase our interactions. I know some council members had indicated to me that let's just get through this period and find a permanent manager. And I believe that there would have to be more regular communication between the city manager and the members of council and the mayor. And that, I just want to follow, that could include in person, on phone, or an email, the variety of ways that we could increase that communication. Just a quick mind to follow up on it. I'm a real believer in fair information, that, and I think I have proven that with some of the minor questions that have been asked by one council member, and I try to share the answer to all of council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Baker will ask the next question.
Seems kind of funny because we know more about you, but what would an internet search reveal about your past public positions? Is there any information or background that you would like to provide?
Well, this is kind of funny because it might reveal that I've won a couple awards. One for the Big Beaver Corridor study. We actually won 2 awards, one from the Michigan Planners and the Michigan Landscape Architects. I don't think a lot is going to be revealed in an internet search of me. Might connect it to my LinkedIn page. It's really is up to date, but I really don't use it.
Councilman Hamilton will ask the next question.
Thanks for coming, Mark. What actions would you take to assure that the city is intentionally engaged in evaluating and improving its diversity and inclusion efforts to assure all residents have an opportunity to participate in local government?
In preparation for this interview, I've given that subject a lot of thought. And what I would do is would work with council to develop a diversity and inclusion plan. And then that would set forth the strategy to one, recruit a more diverse employment base. The one thing I would note, our population, our Asian population is approximately 20%. That, to achieve a 20% number of employees would take a significant amount of work and effort to make that happen. Because the way that we operate now, we're open and fair, but we're not aggressive in trying to influence the outcomes in hiring.
Thank you. Councilman Henderson will ask the next question.
This is an odd question for you because you've been integral in a lot of the planning and so forth in the city. So, but what experience do you have in assessing development opportunities and challenges in the city, and what is your plan if selected as the next Troy City Manager? Maybe if I can rephrase that question for you, right? Is you know the problems that we have with development, difficult there. There you go. You said it, I didn't. But
Okay.
yeah, you're right. How do we get around that? What's your plan to try to develop in tough developmental areas?
Well, first of all, I would state unequivocally that I am an expert in planning and economic development. There's no doubt about that. I am a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners who, during the Great Recession, stepped up my game and moved into the city manager's office, and I've been here for 9 years. And over the 18-year period which I've worked with the city, when I use the word I, remember everything is collaborative in a team. You know, I don't do everything, obviously, planning commission, city council, many staff members, but I was the architect for the healthy resurgence of the city of Troy. As when I was the planning director in the 2000s, the automotive industry was reducing their product share, and there was a lot of office space. Our office empty vacancies got up to almost over 30%, and I convinced the city manager to do a Big Beaver corridor study. We followed it up with a comprehensive master plan, the first one since 1965, and then we followed that up with Big Beaver design guidelines, and then a comprehensive zoning ordinance revision. And that is the textbook thing you're supposed to do when there's a recession. Do all your planning, and then when the development breaks, you're ready to go. And then the follow-up with the NIMBY is, well, we're already working on that. Brent Savanant and Carlisle Wortman are working on a Citizens Academy to try to educate residents so that they understand how the development process works and why they're developing. And I think it's engaging and educating the residents. And I guess all my plan. We're doing that now, and we're getting ready to roll that out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Hoderick will have the next question.
My notes, sorry. Mark, what do you see as the city manager's role in communicating with the press, media, and the public? And how do you plan to be successful in that?
Well, I believe that the city manager should speak for the city to the press, except for when the city attorney needs to speak for it because there's confidentiality or legal issues involved, and that happens more than you'd think. Then the second part of that question was,
How do you plan to be successful with the communication efforts?
once again, this is a real team effort. We rely on staff, both of community affairs and in the direct manager's office, to deal with our website press releases, social media. I mean, whenever we hit, let's say we have a road that's going to be closed, we put it in the website, press release, but we also do it in social media.
Thank you. Councilman Pennington will ask the next question.
Mark, please describe in detail your approach to municipal budgeting, including the process you would use to develop budget objectives with City Council and facilitate budget development with department heads.
Well, in the short term, I would develop a budget strategy session with council that is compressed to like an afternoon to help develop strategies. We would continue the process we have, I think, internally, because that is working, where Tom Darling, our Financial Services Director, rolls out the budget directions for both the capital fund and the general fund, and then that's distributed to all the department heads. I believe we would continue with that process. It's working well. Then the individual departments prepare their budgets, and then they deliver them through their direct report, and then eventually that goes to Tom Darling. And then the senior management team goes through those line to line, line by line, with the director to come forward with the ultimate recommendation to City Council.
Mark, I'll ask the next question. I assume you've taken a look, but I'm just reading the questions to make sure that they're consistent with others. But let's say I know you've taken a look at the city's organizational structure.
Yes.
How do you feel about the current structure? Do you feel there is a need to implement change? If so, express your ideas and tell us your philosophy on the city's organizational structure.
In general, overall, I don't think there needs to be a lot of change, except the one thing I would note is that because during the Great Recession and the response to it, a lot of departments were cut to the bone, and there aren't opportunities for young professionals in those departments. And I would like to see that more. And the reason why I like younger professionals coming to the department, it adds energy, it gives opportunities in the profession, and I think then it helps out that employee who is handling everything. Secondly, the biggest change that I see is that there needs to be a clear, direct report who is clearly the acting manager in the absence of the city manager. So, an assistant city manager.
Thank you.
I've been there.
Mayor, I'm giving Mayor Pro Tem Abraham a second here.
Yes, I'm good.
Complete your,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, Mark, so if you are selected as the next city manager, how would you build trust and respect of the employees and within the community?
I think my style is collaborative. I respect people. I seek their advice. Honest, sincere, humble, with confidence. I mean, that's how I would act, and then that culture permeates through the organization. And then whenever myself or any of our other staff, that culture then exudes out, and everyone seems to, it becomes the culture, basically.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Councilman Baker?
Professionally and personally, how do you plan to be involved in the community?
Well, I think it's important for the city manager to be involved in a variety of community groups and organizations, especially the ones which are direct partners. And to be involved and go to that, and go to events and meet with them also. Of course, the school district is very important with that. When you say personally, there's not much more in life for me besides going to work, taking care of my home, and watching my son's hockey games. I mean, I go out to eat once in a while. I mean, I don't do a lot, to be honest, outside of work.
Thank you.
I can relate to that. Councilman Hamilton?
City's proud of our long-standing fiscal stability, and while recognizing that fiscal policy is set by City Council, what assistance would you provide to maintain or improve the city's financial position, and what past experiences demonstrate your financial acumen?
I'm going to answer the second part of that question. I was brought into the city manager's office during the Great Recession because John Zerlag, upon a recommendation of Assistant City Manager Brian Murphy, to bring me into the manager's office. And I was given the task to cut the budget of the engineering, planning, and building departments by 40%. And we, had a running mantra that we either eliminated services, consolidated services, or privatized. And we were very successful in doing that. And one, privatizing the building department completely except for the certified building official, and then creating hybrid departments for building and engineering, where consultants are used to deal with the higher activity days or when there's more staff is needed. And so I believe that over the 9 years in which I've been in this office, I've developed the skills and have proven skills in budget development, and that would just continue. And I'm really bad at remembering two-part questions.
The first part was, while recognizing fiscal policy set by council, what assistance would you provide to maintain or improve our financial position?
Well, I think what I would strive to do is have more citizen engagement to be able to find out what the residents desire and want. We are working on right now, about ready to bring to council, 2 different apps. One is sometimes called Reverse 911. That's really not for citizen engagement. That's for notification, like when we had the water alert. But we are going to recommend that we purchase My Civic app, which is specifically citizen engagement. And the thing about citizen engagement is that once you bring something that's an app, well, what about the person that doesn't have a smartphone? And so you have to use traditional methods and more innovative methods in doing that. And what I would like to see is also a more formal process of creating a CIP, a capital improvement plan.
Thank you.
Councilman Henderson?
Again, these questions are written awkwardly, but based on your research and understanding of the city, what do you believe are the most important opportunities and challenges for the city in the near future?
There are some challenges which I don't think are insurmountable, and those, of course, are the Civic Center, green space, trails and pathways. I'm trying to remember them all. Those I don't think are really difficult ones. I think the most difficult problem that's looming out in the future is that we are starting to get into an era of Headley rollback on our millage. And how is that really going to affect us in the future, and what strategy would we, how can we deal with that, and how will it really impact it as it keeps rolling back? Because that will happen as property values go up. And to follow up with a little bit, there's another issue that you as a board kind of know about, and that's the facilities assessment report. And I made the decision not to really deliver that to you until after you select a permanent city manager. But there's going to, you're going to have to get informed of what's in there and what the costs are going to be and how we're going to fund it. And remember, we have, I believe it's 54 structures and buildings.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hoderick?
Making my head roll. In a good way. What steps would you implement to assure an ethical culture in the city?
First off, after our crisis, we implemented ethics training for department head staff, and then we are continuing that. And Chief Mayor's last few months of employment, he is going to conduct ethics training, which he does that in the police world. So we'll provide some training, but I think like that culture I talked about earlier about respect, humility, directness, honesty, is that creates a culture, and you have to be ethical in that culture. But now I'm going backwards a little bit, going back to the training. The training helps indicate to the staff what is the expected behavior, and perhaps have scenarios in those situations, what is acceptable and what isn't. Try, instead of being a simple classroom training, it is more of scenes or topics, real life circumstances. And to do that, you need to pull together alike employees. You wouldn't have a department head and then field staff. They have totally different situations that come up. Or even a department head who is behind closed doors all day, and another department head who is with developers who have money and they're interacting with people like that. And I always point out that the most difficult, not difficult, but some people don't understand, like our economic development person, Glenn Lakeman. He's out, let's say, going to the Consulate General of Japan's house for an event, but that's part of his job. He's not accepting anything. So part of it is to get the employees to understand what is appropriate, and then have a culture where they can ask and determine if they're being questioning what they can and cannot do.
Thank you. Councilman Pennington?
Mark, please describe a situation you've handled where the community faced a contentious issue with strong, diverging opinions, and what did you learn from this experience?
I'm going to bring one up that you might not be aware of, but in about 2002, and I was in my first year as the planning director, the city was in the process of creating a wetlands and natural features protection ordinance. And I was given the task, along with the brand new city engineer, Steve Andette, to present it to the community and get feedback. Well, we packed Athens High gymnasium, or auditorium, excuse me. People were parking on the streets, and there was, I don't know, over 1,000 people there, and everyone was against it, except for 2 people, I think. And it was really interesting because I was really green, new, and people were mad, and we had to treat them with respect, inform them, and then let the people know that this, we spoke loud and clear, this is not going to move forward. That was an interesting one in my career. There's been some other things, the town center is one, and I have a lot of ideas about that. I'm not sure if you're aware that I have 2 certifications from the National Charrette Institute, and I believe if there was more targeted citizen engagement, the outcome may have been different. Citizen engagement is a whole profession in itself, and a lot of people believe that they know how to do it, but it takes skill and training. There's some cities, such as Ann Arbor and Grand Rapids, I know, they actually have professionals whose job is to conduct citizen engagement for input in the capital plan and the budget. That's their full job. I mean, and I'm going to pontificate a little bit. I think sometimes in local government, we try not to spend money, and then we try to do things we're not experts in, and it doesn't always come out in the best results, or it just doesn't come out in the best results. And it's funny, I have a staff person who said this was the 4th proposal for the town center that failed. If you want to look at the history of them, they're in my office, you can take a look. Excuse me, I'm going to take a drink.
Sure. Mark, I have the last question.
Really?
We've gone around twice, so this is the last question. Our past city manager contracts have included a provision requiring the city manager to live within 20 miles of the city. If offered the position, would this type of provision be acceptable to you?
Yes, but I actually have thought a lot about this question. last time I was a finalist for the manager about 5 years ago, the question was, would you live in the city? And at that time, given the market rate of my house had dropped because we were just coming out of the recession, and I was still raising kids, the answer was no, I would not move to the city. I do live, I've Googled it, I live 17 miles by Google from City Hall, not the border, because then I read the charter, it's actually the border. But my wife and I have decided that we don't want to stay in our house long-term. The funny thing is people say we're empty nesters. We're seasonal empty nesters. I have 2 kids in college. It's like 6 months of emptiness and then 5 months of disruption. And so we have decided to sell our house. And so yes, those terms are acceptable. And we're starting to get rid of things, starting to repair things to make the house more sellable. And we are going to look to move. I haven't made that decision exactly when and where, but yes, those conditions are acceptable.
Thank you. Mark, now's an opportunity to ask questions if you want to ask council, or give us a closing statement at this time.
Yes, I don't have any questions, and I want to take the opportunity to hand out an action plan that I prepared for the city if I am appointed permanent city manager. I'll start as soon as I get done. First off, I would like to say that I've worked for the city for 18 years, and we've had some ups and downs over the years, and I think I've demonstrated a commitment to the city and its residents to serve. I believe over the last 9 years in which I've been in the city manager's office, I've developed and proven the skills to be able to be a city manager and be open and honest and forthright with city council and the residents. I really do believe I could be city manager and do a really good job. And I think I would treat all of you with fairness and respect. And I would also strive, one, to treat the employees well, allow them to develop professionally. And to be quite honest, a good city manager needs to rely on their employees because they're the subject experts, not the city manager. I love to pull different department heads together. I'll have the librarian in the same room because it's kind of my division with the city engineer and the planning director, and the library director has no specific knowledge of the things that those other subject experts are working on, but they contribute and help solve problems. With it, I would really be honored to be city manager of the city of Troy, and I believe I would do a really good job. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss that with you.
Thank you very much. Well done, thank you.
Thank you. So you're gonna have a long day?
It's not so bad. We're going to, once again, take a short recess and come back shortly for our next interview.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.